Fantasy managers, hello, welcome back, and a massive thank you for all the support you've given us recently. Once again, if you looked at either Instagram or Twitter on either at Esports Live Now or the Guru's pages at FPL_addicts, you would have seen that we are now the #1 fantasy football podcast in the UK, which is an unreal achievement and couldn't have been done without you guys. So a massive thank you for all your support and to our 800 plus member community. But anyways, hello and welcome back to the Matchday 2 review show and the Matchday 3 preview show, and the stories so far, FPL Addicts Euro 2020 powered by Esports Live podcast. A lot has happened this week and I'm very excited to get into it and dissect it all. So we'll introduce the usual culprits for the show today, minus the Guru, who unfortunately can't be with us but will be appearing via video. So we'll start with my right hand man in the commentary box. It's Ollie, or at Ollie Walker Peel on Instagram. How are you doing today, mate?
Yeah, really good, thank you, mate. Obviously the weekend was slightly soured by a rather dour and lethargic England performance, which I'm sure we'll touch on in a bit. But, you know, my fantasy week went okay, which I'm sure we'll get on to. But here's the reminder at the start of every podcast, it's coming home.
Well, yeah, that's
fair enough, mate. It still is.
Yeah,
it still is.
Can't knock the optimism, mate, at all in any way, shape or form. So yeah, at least you're consistent with it all, and one little small bump in the road doesn't change your mindset at all. So that's brilliant, mate. But we'll move on to Statman Dave now, who's Belgium is still high flying for Statman Dave. You know, 2 wins from 2. So how are you, Dave?
Yeah, going okay. In life in general, but yeah, horrible week for me in Euro Fantasy. We'll discuss that a little bit later, but probably my worst performance of all of the EPL season in Euro so far.
Well, there's always, there's only one way up from there then, Dave. So the only way is up for you. And, we'll get into some discussion later about your week and how you went and, sort of strategies as we move forward into the, sort of like the playoff version of the tournament, isn't it? The tournament style football that we all don't really have much experience with. So we'll get onto that a little bit later. And finally on the panel today, we've got Jack from Esports Live. How are you, mate?
Yes, Elliot, very good. You're obviously a bit like Ollie, but it's still coming home. We're not at home yet, so we're still going. Obviously, not too happy about the result and the performance, but the kickoff times here in Australia aren't great, and you put a good shift in and you get out a 0-0. It's not the best feeling, but good to be back on the podcast and looking forward to getting stuck into the preview for match day 3.
Yeah, and we will move on to ask Ollie. Well, I'll ask you about England now, and what was quite an upbeat and happy review of the game last week against Croatia. Surely going to be a little bit soured, as you say, with the performance against Scotland. But what did you sort of make of it, and England's sort of half performance, I would call it?
Yeah, obviously we watched it together, didn't we, Elliot? And we had literally nothing to shout about. First of all, though, credit to Scotland. They deserve the point, and some people would argue that they deserve more than one. They deserved all 3, but obviously John Stones' header hit the post. If that goes in, I'm sounding like Captain Obvious here. If that goes in, it's a completely different game. We probably go on to win that 2 or 3-0 like we all expected to, but hit the post. Scotland got a little bit lucky, but yeah, they held their own. Obviously, O'Donnell forced Pickford into a really good save, which was their best chance of the game, and I thought throughout the rest of the game, we sort of cancelled each other out a little bit, which was a little bit disappointing because you sort of thought that the players that England had out on the park should be beating a team like Scotland, really. But no, Scotland played up to the occasion. Billy Gilmore was absolutely quality for me. I saw earlier this week he got a 4 rating on Sky Sports for his performance.
He did not.
4 out of 10.
Wow.
Who was rating that?
I don't know. I don't know who was rating it, but yeah, they need to give the head a wobble because he was brilliant.
Wow,
he got started the match as well, didn't he? He got started the match, didn't he?
Yeah, and he more than deserved that too. But Southgate really didn't put his best, or the team that he should have put out there. How Jadon Sancho has not got it now, and how Grealish is only getting 15 minutes is beyond me. But I guess there's a reason why he's the manager, and obviously I'm not. But anyway, we go on to the Czech Republic, hopefully win there, and get some momentum back for the rest of the tournament.
Yeah, definitely. And Jack, the Guru's not on tonight, so we can slate Harry Kane all we want without any sort of like death stares. But he just looks a little bit off the mark at the minute, doesn't he? Just not as the Harry Kane that we saw this season. Top goal scorer, top assister. He just looked a little bit lethargic and even a little bit unfit, I thought, in the match.
Yeah, it's not going his way at the minute, and nor England's way. He's not getting the service more than anything as well. But he's not getting in those positions where we know he's absolutely ruthless, and he's yeah, it's tough to watch. It's tough to watch, and it was obviously infuriating against Scotland, him not putting any goals away. We're all anticipating a hat trick from him or some sort of genius, but yeah, Harry Kane's not the man on fire at the moment.
Yeah, I'm sure it will come back to him. If there's any player in the team that you want a chance to fall to, it's going to be him. So, yeah, hopefully he can get firing against the Czech Republic and start his account for Euro 2020. But Dave, as we mentioned before, Belgium, they're on fire at the minute. Kevin De Bruyne is back. Looks, he just makes that team so much better. They obviously went down 1-0 pretty early on, which wiped out their clean sheet for a lot of fantasy teams, including myself. But what did you sort of make of the game?
Yeah, well, as you said, bit of a come from behind performance. They're on the back foot early, but yeah, not I suppose it's one of those games you had to grind out the result to make sure you get top spot. And as far as you sort of mentioned De Bruyne getting plenty of match time and looking pretty good, and then Lukaku, the guy I've been sort of backing as my captain so far, had a decent game, but couldn't actually turn it into a fantasy score, which is a bit frustrating. But yeah, they got one more game to go, and they're looking good to go deep into the tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. They're definitely not a team that I want to be facing anytime soon. So, they're looking like they're pretty decent. But another team that I don't want to face anytime soon is France, Ollie. And they were stunned away at Hungary, weren't they, in Budapest, with a 1-1 draw, which I don't think many fantasy managers anticipated, yourself included, which we will get onto later with your team. Considering your, did you end up going a triple up on defenders?
I did. Two of them started as well. One of them didn't even start. I can't even remember who it was. I'm that fuming. Yeah, it was. You're right. Luke Hernandez was, he started on the bench, which was kind of frustrating. I had Varane and Kimpembe alongside that as well. And I just, in the words of Gary Neville, this was the banker. This was the one that couldn't fail. And yet it failed. Couldn't believe it. Obviously, they scored right on the in the shadows of half time, to be honest. Fiola scored for them, Attila Fiola, who plays for Ferivar. I'm assuming that might be in Hungary. I've never heard of the club before. They're not even in the. I've not even heard them from even the Conference League or whatever. Hungarian. They are Hungarian. So playing in his native Hungary, and he's just scored one of the most important goals in his career. And fair play to Hungary. Obviously, they weren't expected to go and get a point from that against the current world champions, but they have done, and they've shaken that group right up, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you think it's time people start looking away from a Kylian Mbappe and more towards an Antoine Griezmann, who did manage to get himself on the score sheet as well? Mbappe, again, has failed to register a goal.
I don't think you look away from Mbappe, but you might want to broaden your horizons, because obviously, if Mbappe is a bit like your performance today, obviously we had a game ourselves, and you admitted you didn't play at your best, but you still grabbed the winning goal. And Mbappe's like that. You just need one moment, and you're back in the game. You can have a poor game, and you can still grab the winner and grab the headlines. So I think Mbappe is still one that you could do with having in, but you don't want to just look at Mbappe. You might want to have a look at potentially a Griezmann or even a Olivier Giroud if you're that way inclined. But have a look at some other options.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll have to ask Reedy about that if he gets on the podcast a little bit later. He's obviously shared his thoughts and feelings for Mbappe, and might have a little romantic relationship like the Guru does with Gundogan and Harry Kane forming, because he's always talking Mbappe up and everything. But we'll get onto our last little snippet now. And Jack, you've spoken a lot about Germany on the podcast and how dangerous they are in knockout tournament football, and they've shown it once again. Beating Portugal 4-2. No one really expected. I don't think it's safe to say that anyone expected for them to beat them 4-2, but especially after they lost to France. But they've managed to do it, and they looked fairly decent, didn't they?
Yeah, I think everyone was like you said, everyone was a bit surprised by what happened, the result, especially with Germany not really having a number 9 in the team. I think it was obviously a big kind of shock to even grab 4 goals. So yeah, obviously a couple of own goals in there. Havertz obviously looking good as well, and the left wing back Gosman, which no one really knew who he was or what he was capable of, but he seems to have bed himself in really nicely. Now he looks the part. He came away with assist and a goal, and Germany took all 3 points there against a Portugal team, which the assets in there, Ronaldo and Jota, grabbing goals and assists, which didn't turn up on match day 1, did they, for us? But in terms of that, well, Jota didn't. So yeah, Germany looked good. Muller looking great in there. He just creates, didn't have to score, but his movement around the pitch is that's why he's in that national team. That's why he's a legend for Germany, and he looked really good. And obviously Kimmich at right wing back, he can play centre mid if he wants. He looks the goods. He's like a Rolls Royce of a player, and he's obviously out on the right hand side. So dangerous as a team. Obviously looks a lot better than what they did in match day 1, grabbing the goals. But Germany assets, I'm definitely looking at them going into this match day for sure, because obviously I know they'll be wanting to step up, and they're playing against Hungary in there, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely one to look at, and Thomas Muller's labelled him Thomas Golsons now, so he's back at it with the
Wow.
nicknames and everything. But that wraps up the review of match day 2. And we will move on now, and we're going to start with the Gurus team. Jack, I think you've got a question for him, mate, and we'll just review it. So take it away.
Yeah, I'll just get him up now. This is what he said earlier.
Oh. Strap yourselves in.
4.5 minutes.
Okay, Guru, just a couple more things, mate. Obviously, looking at your team and your thoughts going into match day 3. What are you thinking in there, mate?
Yeah, look, it's a tough one. I've had a pretty good round this one, so I just need to get the balance right for this third match day. Work out, do I really need to use my wild card, or can I get away with using 2 transfers and then saving that wild card for the later stages? I think there's 2 strategies at the moment. You either use your wild card now, match day 3, get it done, especially if you've used your limitless in the second round, because you've effectively had a free chip wild card in game week 1 with unlimited, game week 2 with limitless, and now game week 3, and then in the knockouts you're getting a 4th wild card. And then you just have to plan your strategies and your transfers on having as many players in the later stages as possible. So that's one way of looking at it. Or a second way, you can save your wild card now if you've used your limitless. Use the free wild card you get in the knockouts, and then use the wild card that you've got for the final, and then pick a team you think is going to win the final and pick that full 11. In terms of myself, I'm in 2 minds at the moment. I really want to use that wild card, but there is heavy rotation, and so I'm in the paid league as well myself, and I'm in a lot of mini leagues competing. So a bit of me is in 2 minds. So I want to wait to that final when I might really need 11 players on the park from one nation. So yeah, currently need to weigh up who I think is going to play, but I'm probably swaying more towards that wild card just to get a fresh 11. But I really got to study the 11 players or 15 man squad and make sure it's players that are definitely going to play as well. So at the moment, I'd probably say swaying towards that wild card strategy, and then work transfers in towards the finals.
Yeah, nice. And is there any dead set starters for you in this potential wild card chip for you?
Yeah, look, if I do it, I'm liking Perisic for Croatia. I'm really going to look at teams that need to qualify and need results. So potentially Germany on the last day against Hungary. The Croatians need a result against Scotland. Likewise, Scotland needs something out of Croatia. So the likes of John McGinn, Perisic are in there. Yarmolenko for Ukraine. I'm even going to look at England still. Obviously, they're on 4 points, but I still think they need a result just to get the fans on side. So your Jadon Sancho's. Probably be looking at a defender for England as well, one of the centre backs, or maybe even Pickford, because England are still keeping a couple of clean sheets. So that's going to be my sort of aim, is those teams. Your Belgium's is going to be a tough one. Obviously, the big hitters from Belgium. I don't really know who they're going to play. It's hard to judge. They've already got 6 points, the same as Italy. So I probably will avoid tripling up on those teams. And I'll be looking more towards these teams that need to qualify. Might even look at Sweden as well. There was a couple of players that impressed me the other night. In their defence, you've got Forsberg, who scored the pen. And that's one that's on my radar too. And they need 3 points. I think they got Poland in the last game. So they're the sort of teams I'm going to aim for. Is the ones that need to qualify.
Yeah, nice. And even like Isaac up top for Sweden as well, look really, really handy. And I think he's one who's on the radar for a lot of people, even in the real club world, in clubland as well. I'm sure they'll be eyeing him up because he was really impressive.
Yeah, he looks brilliant, doesn't he? The striker in the first round, he could have had a couple of goals against Spain, and looked brilliant in the Slovakia game. So yeah, he's definitely one to keep an eye on as well. So you've got 3 straight field start because Sweden need the 3 points. So yeah, I agree with that one, Jack. Definitely one to look at.
All right, spot on. Well, thanks for your insight there, Guru, and we'll catch you on the round of 16. Hopefully, England will be joining us there.
Looking forward to it, lads, and it's still coming home.
I think just about all of us have said that on this podcast so far, but the Guru's named pretty much every team under the sun there, hasn't he, that he's getting into his team. So I am quite interested to see what he's going to end up doing. But yeah, it's just worth pointing out just quickly that unfortunately the Guru's missed out on the manager of the match day because he got 67 points and he subbed on Luca Hernandez for Thomas Munier, who got 2 points, and it would have kept him on top, which has led to Marko Skokic and Leo Bryan, who actually tied this week for the manager of the match day, and they'll play off in match day 3 for the prize of 30 Aussie dollars for 68 points this week. So yeah, if the Guru had stuck with Munier, then he would have been able to get that. But yeah, definitely watch closely this little playoff sort of thing in match day 3, and it will be really interesting. And hats off to the managers of the match day, I guess, because that's 68 points. It's a very, very decent score. But we'll move on to our teams now, back in the present world and not listening to the Guru through a screen, trying our best to not fall asleep as he names every team playing in the competition that he's going to get in. But that's what he's here for. I do think it's worth mentioning while I'm still here and Jack's not telling us about his team, that you can't have 11 players from one team on the final. I noticed that he did say that, so you can't have 11 teams from England for when they make it. You can have a maximum of 8. So it is worth just pointing that out. So the Guru's led you on a little bit there with a little bit of false information. But Jack, we'll get onto your team now. And out of everyone here, you have scored the most points this week. It was 50 points for you this week. So what did you make of it?
Yeah, it was a tough week, wasn't it? I mean, use the limitless chip. Obviously, the trend everywhere on Twitter, everyone was using the limitless chip and kind of jumped in, and it became quite obviously a bit of a template team for everyone. Very similar assets, with the likes of Donnarumma in goal, the Italian backline, Dumfries from the Netherlands. Wijnaldum, Insigne, and then obviously Mbappe and Lukaku up top. And then there's obviously a couple of different players picked. A few more Ukrainian assets were picked here, there, and everywhere. I went for Malinovsky in midfield instead of Yarmolenko, which obviously didn't go well down for me. So he got subbed off quite quickly after he finished on 0 after missing the penalty. He absolutely killed me there, to be fair. And then, yeah, my captain choices were tough in there. Getting 50 wasn't too bad. I kind of scraped through, but I think the captain choices weren't great to choose from. With Insigne blanking, followed by Lukaku, followed by Harry Kane, followed by Mbappe. So didn't choose great in there, but Perisic was probably the pick out of that, and thanks to the Guru for that one. I'll every credit to him for suggesting him. So I put him in on the last second, along with the not so good pick with Hernandez, who I did bring in. Thinking he was going to start, and then missed that one because I already transferred him in from Munier, so I lost out on 2 points. But it was neither here or there. It wouldn't have made a massive difference for me. Yeah,
absolutely. And the Denzel Dumfries there, as we can see in your defence, he got the most points from your team this week, and he's been really, really good so far. He scored and lots of goals, lots of assists so far for only 2 games, which is really, really good to see. So do you think he's sort of an essential heading into this match day? They've got North Macedonia, so you'd like to hope that he would maybe not get on the score sheet again, but be able to do something other than a clean sheet as well.
Yeah, you hope he's going to contribute with at least a clean sheet if possible, and if he's obviously getting forward and contributing, even better, right?
Yeah, look, he's looked really nice, hasn't he? He's on that right hand side, he's getting involved, he's getting forward. So he's definitely one that I'm going to be looking at for my team. And you mentioned Perisic as well, as the Guru said, as one of his 20 players that he listed in his video. He's looking quite good, isn't he, as well? For Croatia, he looked a little bit quiet against England, but the defense sort of dominated that game. But he's definitely one that's worth looking at. Do you think?
Yeah, no, 100%. If you've got if you're playing your wild card or you're doing a limitless chip, I think definitely a Perisic shout to go in there. He came out of the into the second half, absolutely firing. Got his goal, which is an absolute screamer as well. So yeah, if you can get him in, have a look at him and bring him in.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. But we'll just go over quickly. We've got a live comment from Ozpike, and he says, wildcard match day 3. The option to have at least 6 confirmed starters in the first games is too good to pass up on, with lots of rotations expected. And Ollie, what do you sort of make of that? Are you agreeing with Ozpike in that, wildcard's the way to go for match day 3, or are you going to pass up the opportunity?
Oh, it's one that I've thought about, especially with the transfers I've made. I think I've jumped the gun a little bit there, and I regret the transfers that I've made. But I will advise to ignore it for now. I think that you've just got to stick with your guns on this occasion for match day 1. Obviously, you picked a team for a reason. I think it's just like the wild card in FPL, isn't it? You get unlimited transfers, but not unlimited budget. Look, I suppose every situation's different. So obviously, if you've had a bad score in the first week and you've not got a great team and you've got a lot of problems in your team, then I would advise playing the wild card. For me, I won't be, because I've got enough confidence in the team I've got that I can do a job. But I think if the situation permits it, then it's not something I would definitely say no to, but I would advise not playing it if you think that you can get a decent score on with the team you've got at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And, decent scores aren't much that you'll know about, but, we'll take your word for it and move on to your team.
Why are you asking for my advice? Why are you asking for my advice? Don't take my advice. In fact, play your wild card, because I've said not to. So play it, because it'll probably work out better for you.
Well, he just said again in the comments he's got 109 points overall, which isn't, not too bad at all. Across 2 weeks.
That's not too bad. So I'd imagine you'd have a decent team. So with that knowledge, I would advise not to play it.
Well, if you want to listen to Ollie and put your week in jeopardy, Ozpike, then that's the decision that you've got to make. But we will move on swiftly to my team now. My limitless chip team for match day 2 managed to get me 56 points. So I do apologise. I made a mistake with my words there. Jack is the top overall scorer out of us 4 here, not just for this game week. So I apologise for that one. But 56 points for me. I was really happy with the start that I had. Italy, double clean sheets, Donnarumma and Spinazzola. Italy looked really, really good. So, hopefully more of the same for them in the night. So, that'll be really, really nice. And then Varane and Luca Hernandez, unfortunately, weren't able to do anything for me. Luca Hernandez obviously didn't even get the start. So that was a little bit disappointing. But Yarmolenko managed to fire as my captain, which I was thrilled about. It was sort of a risk after giving it to Insigne on the first day, who didn't manage to return, gave it to Yarmolenko on the second night, and he popped up with a goal and an assist, so that was brilliant. And then Kevin De Bruyne was a risk player that I brought in just to sort of see if he'd start, just test the waters, and he managed to play, and goal and an assist is nothing else that you'd expect from him, but that's absolutely brilliant, and it's definitely helped my week in a long way. And then unfortunately the England assets, Kane and Sterling, they both just looked a little bit off the mark, and Mbappe, Lukaku and Wijnaldum weren't really able to do much else for my team. But no, that was my limitless chip. A little bit underwhelming considering you play a chip and you're hoping for a really, really high score, but yeah, that's all you can do. And I stand corrected again, because
I was just gonna say
it's worth mentioning that Ozpike ranked 109 in the world with 159 points is being given advice by Ollie Walker-Peel.
Why? See, mate. Why, Ozpike? Why? What are you doing asking advice from me?
He just wants to be a part of the community. He's actually based in Perth as well, Ollie.
Well, that's brilliant. Oh, fair enough. Yeah, class. But I'm thankful that you want to be part of the community, and that's obviously brilliant. But you don't need advice.
We're actually going to get rid of you next week. And
get him on here. Get him on here. He's more qualified to be on here.
Spike, if you want to come on next week, mate, you can 100%. Definitely come on. Yeah.
You're more than welcome to join us. Yeah, more than welcome to join us. It'd be class getting advice from someone who actually knows what they're on about, other than me, who obviously doesn't. But if you're 109th in the world, you stick with what you've got, because you've obviously got a brilliant team that's got you in that position. So that actually just makes my job easier, just to say, don't play your wild card. And by the way, fair play for it was 109th overall work. That's crazy. That's like Tom Stone's levels from,
Yeah,
from the FPL season. If you know,
number one in Australia, he will be as well, won't he? With that,
oh my
yeah,
days.
with that kind of score, he will be. So
You'd like
to
to
have
think
you
so,
on
yeah.
Spiker part of the community.
Don't take advice from a peasant like me and stick to your guns because you're doing incredibly. And obviously,
please don't join
thanks
our
for
league.
watching the podcast.
yeah, you could. You definitely don't want you in the paid league because you'd be stealing all the money, wouldn't you? But we've talked about how bad Ollie is as a manager this week, and that sort of just shows it, doesn't it? 50 points first week, 53. So you're making little baby steps, mate. Getting your team a little bit better each week, 3 extra points, which is really good to see a little bit of improvement. But what did you make of your week?
Lads and ladies, this is the guy you're getting the advice from. Just take this into consideration. I thought I had an okay week. I think I was quite unlucky. Like heading into the final night, obviously I was on like 45 points or something. I just didn't do the maths because I couldn't be bothered. 47, sorry, I will do the maths. 47 points with my entire back line to play. So I was sort of hoping, well, this could be upwards, 60 plus, maybe 70 plus, and I've had a really good week. But France and Spain just didn't do anything for me. You look at the defenders like Denzel Dumfries, who's done amazing last 2 weeks, and you're disappointed that I haven't gone with him. Romelu Lukaku I brought in. Obviously, he was amazing the first week. I brought him into my actual team this week, so I'm hoping that he fires. Ciro Immobile, I said, this is my one that I'm really happy with. Because, like I said, someone called me out for having him as a differential in the group chat we've got. And I said he was at 8% before the start of the tournament, and then everyone's jumped on him, so I'll take some credit for that. Gareth Bale, obviously.
That was you, mate. Yeah, you've inspired the world to get Ciro Immobile into your team. You must have done.
We've inspired quite a lot of people if we're the number one fantasy football podcast in Great Britain, so we're getting a fair reach out there. But obviously, I had 2 penalty misses with Malinowski, who I subbed off, and Gareth Bale, who also did very well outside of that. So it could have been so much better, but a definite missed opportunity.
Yeah, look, it's not a bad week. I think we're being a little bit too harsh on you there, but that's all. That's
all right.
The fun of fantasy football, isn't it, mate? But as I said last week, a hungry goal, and your week's going to go to absolute crap, isn't it? And that's sort of what has happened. But you look at that and you say, imagine if they did keep a clean sheet, what a week it would have been for you. But it's as the Liverpool fan said, if your aunt had balls, she'd be your uncle, but she doesn't, so she's not. So you've got what you've got this week, and you've just got to move on with it. But it's not a bad score by any stretch of the imagination, and it's some good foundations heading into match day 3, don't you reckon?
I mean, this is obviously the limitless team, so you want to go back to the first match week to find my actual team, and I'll give you a quick insight into what I'm doing. For some reason, earlier today, I've made my transfers. For some reason, I took out Harry Kane, and I don't know why, because I feel like he's going to fire now. I took out Grealish because obviously Southgate doesn't fancy playing him. And I've left in the likes of Owen Wijndal, who I probably should have taken out for Denzel Dumfries, which would have made more sense. But I wanted Romelu Lukaku in because obviously we know the striker he is. He's a great striker, incredible striker in world football. So I wanted to bring him in, so I brought him in for Harry Kane, and I've brought in Emil Forsberg for Jack Grealish because I think he's on form for Sweden. So that's what I've gone with. But that team there, look at it. It looks a shambles, doesn't it? So many problems. Yeah. Bruno, you look at Harry Kane, who's there. Wijndal obviously not playing. Grealish not playing. There's so many issues. But hopefully match week could be better.
With Lukaku, Ollie, I was thinking about this in my team when we're going to my team shortly. But what do you think he's going to start? Because obviously they've looking good. Belgium 6 points now. He should be rested theoretically, but is he going to be dead set? Do you think?
Oh, I hope he starts. I hope he starts.
You've just ruined his day. You've just ruined his day.
I might, you know what? I might go back on my advice after that long spiel. I might have to play my wild card this week just to save myself, because if Romelu Lukaku does not start, I might.
Are they guaranteed first? In their group, they're guaranteed top.
If I think playing Finland, right, and if they lose by a couple, if they lose by a couple of goals, then obviously they'll drop. But other than that, they ain't going anywhere. So you feel like they've got enough of a squad, which we know they have, especially if Hazard and De Bruyne get minutes. Not just for fitness reasons, more than actual gameplay. It's you think they're going to be fine, aren't they? You don't really need Lukaku. But
Lukaku doesn't start, I'm going to quit. I'm going to quit the podcast.
Oh, it's all right. I've already replaced you anyway.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Probably good
We'll
decision
get in
too as well.
Yeah,
Probably
we'll
good
get
decision.
Oz
Probably
Pike
really,
on next week,
really,
mate. So
really good decision. But you know, it just sum up my season, wouldn't it? It would really just sum up my tournament if Lukaku doesn't start. But hopefully, even if he doesn't, I've got people on my bench anyway, so I'll be able to make
Maybe
it work.
let's ask anyone who's watching the pod if you think Lukaku's going to start or not.
Maybe we could get a poll up. Oh, Ozpie, by the way, just was checking the chat. Dropped to second in Australia by a point.
Oh,
Yeah.
you'll do anything to get one over him now, mate, won't you?
And I've just realised as well that we'll move on from Ollie now because we don't want to corrupt any minds with bad FPL and Euro fancy knowledge. But Ozpike's overall rank is more than Ollie's total points for this season. So that is a shambles from you, Ollie, mate. You've got 103 and he's 109th in the world. So
I just want to put my head in my hands.
It gets better.
But it's not all bad because if your team's a shambles, then this week it's safe to say that you haven't had the best of weeks, have you, Dave? But what sort of went wrong for you, I guess, this week?
What went right? I think there's more the questions you should be asking. It's look, it's pretty woeful performance. Like I had a pretty decent week last week with 67 or whatever it was, and down to 37 this week. I changed my captain 4 times. I went from Jorginho to Lukaku to Kane, and then ended up with Torres, who ended up being my worst one, only scoring a point. So that pretty much sums up my week as well. So lots of blanks through the midfield, so they really struggled. And yeah, look, I benched Kane as well. And look, if Kane's not scoring, then the trophy's not coming home. I think it's as simple as that.
Okay.
It is coming home. It is coming home.
Undefeated. Come on.
Yeah, I think I'll be potentially using my limitless tonight. I haven't used a chip yet to try and recoup some of those points, and I'll potentially load up on sort of some Spain and Germany need the points to make sure they progress, and Netherlands are playing North Macedonia, so potentially I might load up on those 3 teams with the limitless, and hopefully catch up again.
Yeah, but you got to keep your trusty captain and man Pau Torres in your team, don't you?
We'll see. He might stay there, but if they probably who are Spain playing actually? Come to think of it, they've got Slovakia, I think. So hopefully if they should be able to get a clean sheet there. So hopefully he can get that. But he won't be the captain, obviously, with the limitless team anyway.
Yeah, well, you never know where the Euro fancy week's going to take you. You sort of just, you captain, if they're blank, you move on, you keep going until you somehow manage to get to Pau Torres, I guess. So that's just the nature of Euro fantasy, and that wraps up how we perform this week. And I'm sure Ollie will be thrilled that we'll be moving on to a different segment. So we'll move on now to the guru section by the one and only Matt Day, who is at FPL_addicts on Instagram and Twitter. And remember, if you're not in the Discord server, head to www.e-sportslive.now.com.au/FPL addicts for the link to the Discord server where you can get direct access to the guru and hassle him with all your questions, because that's all he likes to do in life, is answer people's questions and give insight to fantasy knowledge. So over to you, Matt. You've got your ones to watch for match day 3, your captain picks, and your curveball captain.
Match day 3 is ahead of us now, and it's going to be a difficult one with all the rotation that they're expecting. Some teams are qualified, some haven't. So I'm going to try and pick a one to watch / differential for each night, and I'm going to start with first round of games on the first night. And I'm going to pick someone from the Italy-Wales fixture. It's going to be Chiesa. It was the man I spoke about highly of in the first round. Hasn't got really too many minutes since, but with Italy winning both of their games and 6 points, I think he's going to start, and he's definitely one to watch as a differential for that first night. I think he's a pretty safe starter for the Italy-Wales game. And then going on to the night 2, I'm going to pick someone from Denmark who actually did score in this previous round. It's going to be Poulsen, the striker. They got Russia. Denmark need to get a win, try and get themselves in that run-in for the 3rd place spot. I think he's a very good option against a Russia side who's conceded goals in both their games, I believe, or conceded quite a few goals in the first game as well. And then on to the next night, I'm going to go with Croatian, and this is one that I recommended to Jack in the Discord chat, and I got a goal for him as well on the weekend. And I'm going to go for Perisic against Scotland, the Inter Milan man. Scored a great goal against the Czech Republic, and I think he's one that's definitely one to watch. Croatia need 3 points; they got to go for it, and he's normally the hero for Croatia, and I think he's definitely one to put in your midfield. And then going on to the last night of games, there's quite a few games that night. You've got the Spain fixture, you've got the France fixture, you've got the Germany fixture, and there's there's 4 to pick from. So it was quite tough, and I've had to look for a side where I think they really need the win to sort of go through. And I think it's going to be a German player, because even if they depending on their result this weekend, they still need to get at least a point or another 3 points to confirm that top 3. I'm going to go for Serge Gnabry. Was brilliant against the French. Really good attacking player, can play on the left or the right. He gets in a lot of goal scoring positions. And they've got Hungary in the last game. So I think he's a very good option as a differential, and definitely one that you want to look at putting in your teams for that round of fixtures. So we move on now to our captains. And on the first night, I'm going to stick with Chiesa, who's the differential I've picked. I'm going to put him as a captain option for the first set of games. And then going on to the second night, I'm going to move to a midfielder, someone who got us a lot of points in this round. It's going to be Yarmolenko for Ukraine. They got Austria. They do need to win. They've got 3 points so far, Ukraine, so they definitely need at least a point, preferably 3 for them to guarantee qualification. So, you'd expect something big again from Yarmolenko. He's already grabbed a couple of goals and got an assist, and he's looking brilliant for Ukraine. So definitely one to consider as a captain. And then on to the third night, it's the man I mentioned already against Scotland. It's Perisic. He's usually Croatia's hero, like I said. I think he's great captain shout there. And then on to the last night, I'm going to go with Cristiano Ronaldo. You'd expect him to start every game, regardless of how many points Portugal have on the board. He loves the goals. He wants the golden boot. And I think Ronaldo, I know it's against the French, but you might see France rotate a few players and Portugal getting a result out of that one. So I really like the look of Cristiano in that one. And then moving on to my curveball. This was a tough one, and this really is a curveball. It's going to be an England player. Hasn't actually had any minutes yet for England in either game, but everyone wants him to start. Everyone wants him to play. He's had a great season at Dortmund, and it's going to be Jadon Sancho as my curveball. I just think the way England played in that Scotland game. It was quite defensive. It was pretty bland, not the best. And I think against the Czechs, Southgate's going to have to change it up a bit. We might see someone like Sterling drop out. I think Sancho will come in there in that position. Potentially coming on the right hand side for Foden maybe. And I think he'd be a really good curveball option if we think he's going to get the start. His goals and assists at Dortmund are pretty good, and I think he'll deliver the business for England as well. So thanks, guys. That wraps up my differentials for match day 3 and my captains. And good luck to all of our community in our free and our paid leagues.
Wow, that was quicker than I actually expected. He was a little bit short and sweet with it today, wasn't he? So fair play to the guru. There's all your insight and all your knowledge that you'll need heading into match day 3, and that wraps up the guru section. And we'll just get into the mini leagues now quickly, and we'll just show you how the free league first, which has got, as you can see there, if you're looking on screen, 827 members, which is absolutely surreal. So the top 10, top 159 points. So Ollie, that's still blowing you out the water, and most of us, isn't it? So that's absolutely insane. I think I sit around about 100th in this league. So it really just shows how competitive it is and all that. But we've got FPL_Spike on first with 159 points. Hendra in second.
That'd be our Spike, I'd assume.
well done.
Yeah. He's put the two together. He's done it.
Yeah,
he's got a great team name in number 1. That's what you like to see.
Yeah. Well, top of the league. Absolutely fair play to him. So absolutely. Yeah, and then in third we've got Richie Rovers, which I'm not quite sure what his second name is, but I'm assuming his name is Richie there, who's on 153 points. Omar Hani in fourth with 147. Jai in joint fourth with 147. Ayman in sixth, which is tied with Daim, who are both on 146, just 1 point behind fourth there. You never walk alone, which is not really something that I want to be saying on the podcast. Not being a Liverpool fan, but if you can see the man at the bottom of the screen that we'll get onto in just a minute, he'll be happy with that. He's also in joint sixth, and then we've got Silverback FC in ninth and Dedi Rayadi in 10th on 144 points, and that sort of just shows, just how competitive this league is, doesn't it, Ollie? How high those points are, even for everyone on the podcast. I think even the Guru's not really too close to all those point scorers, is he? So that just really shows, how good of a league it is, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It's a good league to be a part of, despite the fact that I'll never see its ceiling. It's nice to see that we've got a decent league, competitive league, and it's what we've wanted for a while, and we're finally getting it. So to all the community out there that are watching this, thanks for being a part of it, and hopefully you can get yourselves up there. Because I know I won't.
Well, that's one thing that's certain in life, is that if you join, you'll probably be ahead of Ollie. So that's a little confidence booster for you. But this is, the paid league now, and still with the paid league, 37 members in it. So you're still able to join it. We do it every single week, so you can win 30 Aussie dollars for if you're the top scorer of the match day. But in terms of overall, we've got Marco Skokic, who was the joint manager of the week this week, in first. So he's had a really good start. Matt Cowling in second, 139 points. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that name in third, but
that's Josh from Werner She Wrote, who was in our FPL league.
Ah, right. Okay, so if you're an FPL watcher as well, you have a little bit of an idea about that. We've had him on as a guest at some point, so you can probably make a little bit of a correlation there. And then the Guru's in fourth, sitting nicely. They winks, it's all over, 131 points. We've got Jacob Walden in 127 points, and his team name's Forsberg to Arsenal, please. So that sounds a little bit desperate. They lost out on Emi Buendia, so he's going for Emil Forsberg now. And then Jack, you're sitting in sixth, just ahead of me, 125 points. That's a really good score.
You're quite surprised, mate.
No surprise here. You've started really well in Euro Fantasy. Are you happy with that, or are you hoping to be a little bit higher?
Yeah, listen, I think it was a bit difficult with the Limitless one, just to try and get those differentials out, and some of the captains not performing. So I would have been a bit higher if they'd performed, obviously. But I had a good first week, and obviously just missed out on that manager of the week with that one to Matt Cowling, who's still going well with another good score this week. So yeah, in and around the mixer, which is where you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's me in joint seventh with Kieran King on 122 points, so just 3 points behind Jack there. And then Chicken Tikka Mo Salah, which I believe was your name for the FPL season, wasn't it, Statman Dave?
No, it wasn't mine. I had
James Gaston. James Gaston.
It still is James Gaston.
Yeah,
of course.
Yes,
of course it is.
Because he's got the Blues are going up, which is Birmingham. There's more chance of them going down than up this season, James.
We'll let him have a little bit of a say on that one if he ever pops on the podcast again at some point. And then rounding out the top 10, we've got Theo09 on 121 points, which is joint with James Gaston. So as you can see, the leagues are really competitive, and they're really sort of shaping up now, separating the rubbish from the good as Ollie sort of just drops further and further down the league.
Where am I in this? Let's waste a little.
This is just the free league. If we did the paid league, so if we did the free league, we'd be scrolling for ages. Ollie sits in joint 21st.
103 points. I should quit.
Probably save a lot of ears from having to listen to you blabber on each week about who you think's going to be good, and save their fantasy teams as well. But definitely join the leagues and everything like that. The code for the free league, I'll just point it out quickly, is 45KZE7YN07. So get involved in that. And if you're interested in joining the paid league as well, obviously you're not going to be at a disadvantage because it's done by every single game week. So get involved in that as well. Head to Esports Live or message them on Instagram or Twitter for the information there. But we will move on now, and we'll introduce our sort of guest for the podcast today. He's probably more of a regular than a guest. We've got Chris Reed back on. So how are you doing, mate?
Hi, Elliot. Yeah, I'm not doing too bad, thank you. Obviously, all the England hype's over now. After that poor performance against Scotland, people were expecting big things. Yeah, I'm doing okay. Still loving the Euros. So especially after yesterday's games, I think apart from the Spain-Poland game, we had an absolute cracker of a game between Portugal and Germany. So yeah, loving it, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. And you sit 16th in the paid league, so you're ahead of Ollie. So that's all that really matters. But we'll get onto your team and how you went for match day 2. You got 48 points. So what did you sort of make of your week this week?
Oh, I mean, below par really. You want to be hitting 50 plus, don't you? You know what I mean? It is a bit below than what I wanted, kind of thing. But looking back now with hindsight, which I think a lot of fancy managers have now got after that match day 2. Should I have played that limitless chip? Maybe, maybe not. Because a lot of us expected the likes of France to keep a clean sheet, and Belgium and certain players like Mbappe, Kane, and Lukaku to score and hit, and it just didn't obviously happen. So, it was definitely a round for a lot of managers for the thinking cap, if you like. People had Yarmolenko and these sort of players, and they took a gamble and it paid off for them. So for me personally, like I say, it's a bit below par, but I'm looking to come back stronger, hopefully, for match day 3.
Yeah, and you're a little bit disappointed with Kylian Mbappe. We've obviously talked a lot about him and how he's been a little bit underwhelming in this competition so far. He's looked pretty decent, but in terms of fantasy, he's not got the goals or the assists. So you're a little bit disheartened with him so far?
I wouldn't say disheartened. Obviously, you want to see the points on the board, and that's all that matters. I wouldn't say disheartened because he's still in the mix. That first game against Germany, he could have had 2 goals. He could have had an assist. And obviously VAR played a part in that. I didn't actually catch much of the France-Hungary game. I didn't see much of that, so I wasn't sure if he had any chances and stuff like that. But as somebody alluded to on the pod before, I wouldn't forget about it completely. I think it was Ollie, but I would obviously look at some of the choices. You've just got to work out who's going to start on match day 3 and things like that. And if you maybe want him going into the knockout stages if France make it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't want to be taking any advice from Ollie, but we've got a comment from the Guru, who unfortunately, as we said, can't be with us tonight. And he says, back to the Lukaku comment that Jack sort of scared Ollie a little bit with. He says Mertens could possibly be a better option this game week than Lukaku, which is fair enough. So maybe that's one that's worth looking at, Ollie. And if you play your wild card, will you maybe look to make that change?
I won't play it. I'll own my mistake.
Okay.
There you go.
Well, that's absolutely fair enough.
I love how I'm calling it a mistake before the team's even been selected. Roberto Martinez could do a bit of a masterclass and start Lukaku, and we're all loving life. But honestly, this Euro fantasy's gone down the pan. Get me back to FPL, please.
Well, it wasn't too great for FPL either, mate, was it? So I just need a little bit of an escape, the little two week period or whatever, maybe before football's truly back. But by then we'll be making our fantasy teams and be back doing that. So that'll be brilliant as well. And yeah, that's not a bad week from you, Reedy. 48 points. So you mentioned, are you going to maybe play your limitless this week, or are you thinking transfers or wild cards? What you sort of shaping up to do?
Well, it is interesting.
It sounds exciting.
I've noticed a few of you guys. You've discussed about using your wild cards, and I don't think many. Was there any of you guys who didn't use your limitless, or did everyone use it? Or
Dave didn't.
I haven't used one yet. I haven't used.
Yeah, Statman. Okay, yeah. So I mean, fair play to Statman. I mean, I don't know how he's sitting in the league at the minute, but he's got obviously those chips in his back pocket. And I would say, people looking to use their wild card, don't forget match day 3 now is approaching, and you want to put players in there that you potentially could see later on in the tournament. You've got that difficulty there of who's going to be selected now, who needs to still qualify and whatnot. But you have also then got the round of 16 where you can make unlimited transfers. So if you are going to play your wild card, you've then got to bear in mind you do have then another sort of selection there, like almost a free chip, if you like, even though it's not. And you can then change your team up again. So you've got to almost weigh up: is it worth using that wild card for this match day 3, or is it worth maybe saving that and storing that for one of the later rounds where you can put as many? I know the selection of certain players for teams do increase anyway, but is there going to be then that wild card there that are going to make the difference for you to be able to, get points over your fantasy rivals. So it's a big headache to have, really. It's not as straightforward as what people might think. Oh yeah, let's use the wild card. People might want to do that because the team's not as good from the first match day. They didn't select who they maybe wanted, or maybe they're not going to play. So it's a tricky one, guys.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting.
What are you going to do, Reedy?
I'm keeping my cards close to my chest, aren't I? Listen, we can't be giving the game away early days. But
the podcast is all about sharing, Reedy. So what are you going to do?
All right. He's got me there. To be fair, boys, I'm gonna personally. I'm just gonna use my transfers, and I'm gonna stick with what I've got. That's my option. I want to save that wild card. I don't see the point personally in using it if you do have the option then in the match round of 16 to be able to change your team completely anyway. So that's how I look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's a fair evaluation of it. I think most of us will probably be the same, sort of being a little bit more conservative with it and just sort of sticking with it and seeing how it will end up going. But that does wrap up the podcast for the review of match day 2 and the preview of match day 3. The deadline is fast approaching. It's about 5 or so hours from when we're recording this, so it's 2 a.m. Australia time, and that'll be 5 p.m. over in England, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, it's nearly here, and you've got to get your transfers in because the quick turnovers and your captain swaps and your substitutions, don't forget to make them, because I know a few people that have forgotten to do them because you've got to be looking at it every day, checking it all the time. But just a reminder to join over the 800 plus members which are now in our mini leagues and free leagues, and the code was mentioned before and shown on screen. I won't say it again, but what I will say is that before match day 4 is the last opportunity to join the leagues. Is that just for the paid league, Jack, or is that for the free league as well?
That's just for the paid league, just so everyone's locked in then. And obviously you can still join that now, but the free one you can join at any time. Obviously, I think there is a cut-off that just does happen with UEFA anyway on their app. So yeah, you can still join. Come join the community. We've got a great Discord community on there. Obviously adding all our nonsense advice on there as well, and tips, but and being as sharing as we can. In that right, Reedy? With all your advice and your opinions. And yeah, we do get some good takeaways out of that, and I hope everyone gets some good takeaways from the podcast as well.
Yeah, and absolutely. And just before we go, we've got another Ozpike comment, which probably would feel a little bit rude to not mention, considering we are in the presence of the second ranked in Australia and 109th ranked Euro Fantasy member in the world. So he says he reckons the wild card has more value now. It's less games and less points available than later rounds, and that's a fair assumption as well. I can definitely see both sides of the coin and why you'd want to play it and why you wouldn't, why you want to save it. So yeah, it sort of just depends on what your preference is, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think from what we were discussing just before we went live on the pod, we were talking about maybe using the wild card maybe at that quarter-final stage. Obviously, you get the round of 16, then you lose your 8 teams in there, and then you've got a bit of an idea of potentially who's going to kind of carry on through the next rounds with, obviously, I think like three transfers in the quarterfinals or 5 in the semi and final and the grand final. So I think it's kind of a good time around that quarterfinal one, in my opinion, on that one. So yeah, I don't know what other, obviously. Ollie, if you're going to use yours now, aren't you? Because you're going to overhaul your team after this podcast. And
I don't even know what I'm going to do anymore, mate. I don't even know.
He's going to curl up in a ball and he's going to cry and he's going to go to sleep.
I'm just going to go to a comment there. I think obviously someone's accused me of cheating here. I don't run the UEFA Fantasy podcast app or anything, so I can't obviously cheat on there. I think that's one of my Italian friends, Luca, who's just hiding behind a comment there, behind the keyboard. But no, Luca, I haven't used a wild card. I've used my limitless and 2 transfers. I don't even know what he's on about.
I think he's calling you a little bit trigger happy, mate, saying you like to play your chips and your transfers, and you're getting up the league, so they're envious of you, and they want to be.
I think he's been maybe talking to Rolando Elliot, so you never know. Might have had a little chat with him.
Possibly, mate. We'll never know. But, you'll just have to find out how we do in match day 3 on the review show, which will probably be in about a couple of days' time now when match day 3 has concluded. But best of luck for match day 3. May all your Euro fantasy dreams come true, and take care. Stay safe. Goodbye for now.